20th, 2015 to order. And Phyllis, can we have roll call, please?
Dr. Garpetian,
Here.
Ms. Nahabedian,
Here.
Mrs. Russell,
Here.
Mrs. Walters,
Here.
and Mr. Krikorian.
Here. It should be an exciting evening. Now we're on to public communication. First speaker we have is James Burdner, and after James we have Melinda Foster. James, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. My name is James Bodnar, and I just want to be very clear that I oppose the Sagebrush territory transfer. I oppose it for two very special reasons. Their names are Lori and Susie. Lori is currently a 6th grader at Mountain Avenue Elementary. But I think more importantly, Susie is a 4-year-old student, or 4-year-old that will hopefully, I say hopefully or may be a student at Mountain Avenue. It's because I really don't understand what's going to happen to Mountain Avenue as part of this transfer. You know, I'm fumbling for my thoughts, but I created this Post-it note for myself, improving education. And I'm going to look at this occasionally during my presentation just to remind me what this is all about in terms of what the board is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be improving education for the students. So I'm just keep that there. I'm going to cover 3 main areas during my talk. One is the impact of Mountain Avenue, which I think is going to be the most impacted by any territory transfer, just by the percentage of students. 2, by the misconceptions, I think, that are related to how school boundaries are set. And 3, my suggested do's and don'ts with respect to this process. I think Mountain Avenue, admittedly, will probably be the most impacted because the most, as a percentage, of Sagebrush students will be leaving that school, roughly about 30%. And I think that's significant by any standard. The phase-in might mask that problem in terms of having a small percentage going each time, but it's just like if you're slowly cooking a frog, the end result is the same. It's not a very good result for that frog. And I don't want a negative result for our students. Another issue that's related to Mountain Avenue that's very important, I've heard some positive direction on this, is the park. The park is very integral in terms of, I think, the safety of the school. You know, I did a little bit of research. I looked at all your other elementary schools, and I'm not aware of anyone, I'm not even aware of any school within Glendale Unified School District that has a dead-end street for one of its schools. And I think that it's very important that a school have more than one access point for safety. Misconceptions. School boundaries are not meant to match city boundaries. It's a fact. You can do the research yourself. But there are 2 different political organizations that set boundaries for each one. They don't work together. They work independently because they have independent goals. What do you think the school district, the county committee on school district organizations, they're about improving education. They're not about city identity. So I think that that's a very key point. If you look at some of the cities and school boundaries that are close, there's a reason for that. It's because the date that the schools were formed, the school boundaries were formed, and the cities were formed, they align because they were formed at about the same time period. You know that I'm getting close to 2 minutes, so I'm going to move a little bit quicker. One interesting point of information is that the city of La Cañada, when they passed their first resolution, they didn't even realize the complexity with respect to cities and school district boundaries. Their original draft for their resolution had coterminous boundaries. They didn't even realize that the La Cañada Unified School District actually extends out into the unincorporated area of LA County and the city of Pasadena. So when they're arguing city identity, they're taking students from the city of Pasadena. They're taking students from the unincorporated area of LA County. So I think that it's kind of ironic that when people bring up city identity, that they can take other students. I also talked to Allison Deegan at the County Committee on School District Organizations, and she indicated to me that city identity is not the factor. You know what the factor is? It's improving education for the students. So that's the #1 factor. Moving up to what you shouldn't be doing. Don't give up the park. I've seen some positive movements on that. But also, if you transfer the territory, you're going to create huge congestions with respect to traffic issues on Mountain Avenue because you're going to have students coming from different areas. Don't give La Cañada a free ride with respect to the parcel tax. And lastly, make every effort to improve the education of the students. You will never succeed as a board if you sacrifice the remaining Mountain Avenue students as part of a cost-benefit analysis that you'd performed. In closing, I've heard some board members argue that negotiating will result in a better outcome. I don't want you to negotiate with my child's education. I don't want you to negotiate with my child's safety with respect to traffic. Your heart should be led by this point, improving the education of the students. That should be your founding principle. And those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for coming. Melinda Foster, next speaker, then followed by Ida Babakanyan. Thanks, Melinda, for coming in.
Thanks. Hi. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, board members. I'm going to follow up on what James said about Sagebrush. I, too, oppose a transfer, but seeing we started on this thing, we went down this road, and it looks, from what I understand from a briefing that we got at the PTA, that we're at a stalemate at this point, that no transfer can take longer than 5 years, I think it was. And then also La Cañada was looking into the actual legality of transferring funds with the park and coming back, and it sounded the way they were framing it to me that funds couldn't be transferred without transfer of actual property, but it seems really, if you look at it, more like they wouldn't be obliged to transfer the funds. So one has to say, if they're looking at ways to get out of transferring the funds, they're looking at taking out of the deal one of the key things that would even make a deal beneficial to us. So if we lose that it takes longer than 5 years, we're losing the whole impact of a gradual transfer. And if they're looking at ways to wangle out of paying for the park with us still retaining ownership, which was the main thing, we've lost that. What are we gaining at that point? Why are we doing it? My other thing is, they've had this, I think, since the beginning of December. It's time for an answer on this proposal, a yes or a no. Let's cut this proposal. It's been a long time now. Start a new one, they start one. It's time to finish this off instead of it getting more convoluted with this aspect added and this, and cut it loose. They've said no to this, or have they? We don't even know. Just finish this one. If it's not a valid proposal, be done with it. And on that point, they're the people, or not La Cañada per se, the school board, maybe Unite La Cañada, the people that are wanting this. The onus is on them to come to us with a proposal. You don't go up to somebody and say, I want something, I want something, I want something. Please, could you give me a proposal that'll work for me? They should be coming to you. You've spent over a year, you've spent a ton of money, we're at square one. Put the ball in their court. They know clearly what we need. We need to retain the ownership of the park, and we need a way to make this financially beneficial as opposed to having some kind of just immediate, whatever it is, with judgment against us. But the point is, it should be up to them. You should say, we're done, we tried, this didn't work out, you come back to with something to us. And on that point, I also feel that the one thing that this is supposed to be about is about children. So I agree, you can't be callous and say if these children aren't feeling integrated into society, which I personally don't believe, with my kids being there and seeing those children, that is the point. We all know it's about property taxes, or I believe that. But if these kids really are feeling displaced, you have offered them the opportunity to go to those schools if there is space. The one thing you could do to improve upon that and show goodwill is some parents have a valid concern that they would go, they would ask for a release from Glendale, go to La Cañada, there's not space, and then lose their spot at Mountain because they've got the release and have to go somewhere else. Well, they are trying to hedge their bets, but fine. So I'm sympathetic to them. What about if you said, okay, any kid that comes to us with an acceptance from La Cañada School District that lives in Sagebrush will automatically get released? So I guess flipping it, not getting the release first, for those kids, that's showing goodwill, and that's saying any kid that really is going to go through that, we're prepared to release them. So I think that's more than doing your part. You do offer them good schools. So if this is about their education, you're offering them good schools. If it's about them feeling displaced, you're offering them the solution to it. Anything other than that, I can't understand what they're asking for, and if we're not going to gain anything from it, there's no reason to do it. So please, put this one to bed, get them to give us an answer, start again, balls in their court, and unless it offers us any benefit, we've done enough for them. So those are my points, and thank you.
Thank you. Ida Babakani, after Ida, Ms. Phyllis Miller.
Good evening, board members and Everybody present over here. My name is Ada Babakanyan. I'm employee of 25 years in Glendale Unified School District, and I have 2 students graduated from GUSD. Today I'm here to bring up some controversies that exist in our district policies. Thanks to our students, their families, hardworking teachers, our district is one of the top districts in Los Angeles and California. Our district supposedly strives to bring up educated individuals for our community and for our country by teaching them ethical values and characters. Our district message to the students is, honesty is the top priority for our district. Cheating, lying, forgery is not tolerated and will be punished. But action speaks louder than words. Our district punishes the students, the employees, for forgery, cheating, dishonesty, and most of the time unfairly. But our district itself is involved in forgery and fraud. Here is how. Look at these timesheets. All the highlighted parts are the information that district completed and submitted to the state when the state were auditing our district's categorical program fund, and the district forged the employee's signature and submitted it with the wrong information, false information to the state. And look at this date, 4/4/14. On this day, employee was in the office, but the district doesn't bother itself to ask the employee to sign the timesheet. It's obvious why. This is one case that has been revealed. Imagine how many other cases like this are undercover. When the employee required explanation, district tried to avoid any direct answer. Dr. Gandara said that the signing for another person maybe is illegal, but it is common practice in our district. What does that mean? It means they can sign any false document whenever they want, wherever they want, which means they can do fraud whenever they want. And as a conclusion, it means doing fraud is a common practice for our district. And it's funny that board president, Mr. Krekorian, and district superintendent, Dr. Sheehan, thinks that, lying to state and fraud done by the district administrators is a personnel issue and shouldn't be discussed at board meeting for the public to hear that. And look at this email sent by Dr. Gandara to the employee on January 21st, 15, saying that she's working on getting an explanation. It is exactly 3 months, no words from her. Again, it's obvious why. Our district administrators are so proud, too proud to admit their mistakes, wrongdoings, and frauds. It seems that district policy does not apply, it only applies to students and employees. Administrators are exempt from those policies. These policies do not apply to them. In fact, they get promotion when doing wrong, for wrongdoing. Unfortunately, they are the role model for our students. And I'm here tonight hoping that people elected, board president, board members, and Dr. Sheehan may help Dr. Gandara to get some explanation. At least you owe it to the employee, not only to the employee, but also to the public and taxpayers. It is their money, and they have all the right, they are entitled to know where does their money go. Thank you.
Thank you for coming again, Ida. Next